Michael Jackson sold over 400 million records, won 13 Grammy Awards, and changed pop music forever. He also spent his final years living in a heavily guarded estate, battling lawsuits, addiction to painkillers, and a sense of deep loneliness. He once said, "I am a prisoner of my own fame." That phrase is not just poetic. It describes a real psychological condition. The more famous you become, the more you lose the ability to live an ordinary human life. The dark side of fame is not a myth. It is a documented pattern that has broken countless stars, from Elvis Presley to Princess Diana. We are taught to want fame from the time we are children. We see the bright lights and the screaming fans, and we think that looks like the ultimate validation. But what we do not see is the transaction that happens behind the scenes. You trade your privacy for attention, your safety for status, and eventually, your sense of self for a public image. When you become a household name, you stop being a person and you start being a product. And once you become a product, the people around you start treating you like an asset instead of a human being. And that's the real cost nobody talks about. So let's walk through the 5 main ways fame slowly takes everything from you. Number 1, the death of the ordinary. Imagine you want to do something as simple as walk to a coffee shop. For Michael Jackson, that was impossible. He spent decades unable to step outside without a security detail and a plan for crowd control. When you can no longer participate in the shared human experience, you start to feel like an outsider in your own life. You are separated from reality by a wall of bodyguards and tinted windows. This level of isolation creates a specific kind of paranoia. You start to wonder if the people in your life are there because they love you or because they love being near the sun. Number 2, the loss of a private identity. Psychologists who study celebrity culture often talk about something called acquired situational narcissism. It is what happens when your environment constantly tells you that you are the center of the universe. When every person you meet is nervous to talk to you or wants something from you, you lose the feedback loop that keeps a person grounded. You stop hearing the word no. This happened to Michael Jackson early on. He was a superstar at 11 years old. He never had a chance to figure out who he was without a camera pointed at his face. When your identity is built entirely on the approval of millions of strangers, your self-worth becomes incredibly fragile. And that fragility leads directly to number 3, the distortion of relationships. For stars like Britney Spears or Amy Winehouse, the people who should have been their protectors often became their managers or business partners. When your family and friends depend on your fame for their own livelihood, the relationship changes. It is no longer about support. It is about keeping the engine running. You can see this in the way the media treated Britney in 2007. She was clearly struggling, but the industry kept pushing for more content because she was still profitable. In that world, a breakdown is just another headline that sells magazines. Number 4, the pedestal and the prison. We put these people on pedestals because we want someone to look up to, but a pedestal is a very small place to stand. You cannot move, you cannot make a mistake, and you definitely cannot change. If you try to grow in a way the public does not like, they will try to pull you down. This creates a terrifying dynamic where you are trapped by the very thing that made you successful. Kurt Cobain felt this pressure so intensely that it became unbearable. He felt like he had to play a character that he no longer believed in, but he was trapped by the expectations of an entire generation. Number 5, the chemistry of the brain. Fame actually changes your biology. When you perform for 50,000 people, your brain is flooded with dopamine and adrenaline. It is a high that no drug can truly replicate. But when the show is over and you go back to a quiet hotel room alone, the crash is devastating. Many artists turn to substances not just for fun, but to manage the massive swings between extreme stimulation and total isolation. It is a cycle that is nearly impossible to sustain. Over time, the brain becomes desensitized to normal pleasure, making the ordinary world feel dull and gray. This is why we see the same patterns repeat across generations. Whether it is Elvis in the 70s or Amy Winehouse in the 2000s, the pressure of being a public commodity eventually exceeds the human capacity to cope. We as a culture tend to watch these downfalls with a mix of pity and morbid curiosity, but we rarely stop to think about our role in it. Every click on a tabloid headline and every intrusive photo we consume is a vote for this system to continue. We want the music and the movies, but we often forget that there is a real person paying the price for our entertainment. Fame is a beautiful lie. It promises that if enough people know your name, you will never be lonely. But the lives of people like Michael Jackson show us that the opposite is often true. The more people who know your name, the fewer people truly know you. Real connection happens in the quiet, unrecorded moments of life. It happens when you are just another person in the room, not a legend or an icon. The dark side of fame is simply the realization that once you give your life to the public, it is no longer yours to live.